Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike, and I'm coming with another update. This is actually the finale of the funding campaign for Eternia. We're going to talk about kind of how it ended up and how it went, and some of the implications for possible future projects. Ended up with 9280 backers, and so that leaves an unlocked tier and a questionable 12k tier. That was that a hoax? And should they just do away with the whole early backer thing? Yeah, they probably should. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Okay, so starting out, we just want to talk about the campaign real quick. It was the Eternia. It was a much modernized take on the vintage classic, but yet still feels and looks a lot like the vintage Eternia. It is an upgrade, kind of like we do with almost everything with modern toy lines and modern iterations. They are better than the vintage and usually cheaper than going out and sourcing a vintage. Now, vintage one costs anywhere between $1,200 incomplete to $16,000 sealed and AFA rated. So with that, you're gonna get this with box and packaging, all that kind of stuff. $550, and then the shipping and the tax, it makes it about $650. So with that, we only hit the 9280 backers, target of 5,000. That's 185%. So it actually was a very successful campaign. And with that, 9280 backers really isn't that many, considering we've seen upwards of almost 30,000 on several different of the HasLab projects. I want to get out in front of this though. 5,000 backers baseline, just unlocked the playset, and if you backed it in the first week, you got the King Grayskull. The playset itself is well worth the $550 plus the tax plus the shipping, $650. It is well worth it, especially if you are looking at the vintage ones and thinking, oh, that's going to be impossible to get, and then you got to buy reproduction tracks. So they say the parts are going to be reinforced. In fact, the vintage one didn't even have, in the smaller towers, didn't even have a bottom. It was a hollow, empty bottom. These are actually going to have a floor in those. So they're making them better, more reinforced, bigger, sturdier, and adding some detail, which kind of I'm not liking some of it, but at the end of the day, it is a very nice looking set. I thought they kind of shot themselves in the foot with the King Grayskull, but at the end of the day, they funded in a week, almost 8,000. Was it 8,000? Right around there in about a week. And so with that, 7,900, 8,000 people are getting the King Grayskull out of 9280. So there's like 1,300 people. At this point, here's the way I see it. If you just say, hey, we're never going to do an early backer again, and we screwed up, and everybody get King Grayskull, I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, I am fine with everybody getting a King Grayskull. I was agitated about, of course, the financial, having to move stuff around right away to afford it, but at the end of the day, everybody paid the same amount of money, and everybody that got in within the time frame of the funding, which wasn't really very long, should get the figure. So I'm perfectly fine with that. It's not a big deal, and leaving 1,200 people out in the cold kind of feels bad. But again, are you just looking for, like, is Mattel trying to just make as much money as possible, save as much cost? Who knows? We'll see what happens. So the Mo monster that everybody of course calls Motu is, I don't think that is the true deciding factor. Hey, I wasn't going to buy Eternia, but since they're putting this Moat Monster in, I'm going to go ahead and spend $650. I don't think that's it. I think that everybody that really planned on buying Eternia did what they had to do, moved mountains financially to get in on that King Grayskull, and that's what pushed to get the Moat Monster unlocked. But then after the Moat Monster, of course, it died off drastically, like almost no backers, 20, 30 a day or something along those lines. It wasn't moving very fast because of the fact that pretty much everybody that had planned to do it got in on it, and we had a few stragglers after that. I was fairly certain we were going to get the Keclar figure, but we never did. Keclar is probably the coolest looking Masters Universe figure. Probably doesn't even look like he belongs to Masters Universe. It actually doesn't even look like it shares the butt, because there's so much different tooling with the sleeves and the hood and the cape and all that kind of stuff. Really looks awesome. I think it's a fantastic looking figure. So here's where we stand. We did not unlock it, so we are not going to get it unless Mattel comes out and says, hey, you know what? This campaign was so successful. We're really proud and happy. Everybody gets the Keclar. I doubt it. I doubt it. It's not how business works. Business does not work like that. But if they say, hey, we're paying it forward to the fans so that next time we have one, people are super excited about it, jump on board with it, and all this kind of stuff, well, that's a possibility too. So, this day and age, we just don't usually see corporations giving fans stuff like that. If they did, it would be a nice shock, and it would actually pay forward quite a bit. But at this point, I'm actually thinking we're going to see a separate Mattel Creations kind of thing like we did with Grizzlor. They're going to open it up and say, for 48 hours, you order as many as you want, I'll buy 3. Okay, so let's kind of talk about a couple of issues that we had along the way. First of all, they announced this at SDCC inadvertently. They were trying to keep it under wraps and not announce it. But if they let the cat out the bag and already knew the price, they said, hey, we're not going to tell you the price, but it's going to be expensive. So they didn't let us know the price 2 months in advance. I started getting things ready, I would say financially, but I wasn't. I was just trying to find a place for it. Because, of course, you got to have space for it if you're going to get something big like this. You don't want to just buy it and keep it in a box. Yes, I'm still working out my space and all that kind of stuff. But it would have been nice to know the price back when they inadvertently announced it. They should have said, hey, this is the price. Some people speculate that they were actually still trying to decide the backer number versus the price, because they would have said 8,000 backers. They could have put it at 450 or 500 possibly. It's a possibility that they could have done. Some people speculated they were looking at social medias to kind of see what other people in the community thought the price point should be or could be. So there's a lot of things to factor in, but 5,000 is actually really low for a crowd fund. And it's been, I don't know if I've seen a 5,000 crowdfund. I think 8,000 is usually what HasLab is, 8,000 or higher. 5,000 is not very many. So with that, it did come at a higher price. Community's kind of split on the price, thinking that 550 is way too much, you're getting gouged, and they're using Castle Grayskull of a retail item, mass-produced to over 100,000 of those, probably, and for $80, and they're doing math and calculating all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they're just apples and oranges. No real comparison there. Okay, now I've said the actual value of the set is worth the $650 and all that kind of stuff, but there was this kind of a ghost image of a female character, and people say they think it could be Shirella. Some people say it could be just a different version of Tila or something along those lines. I don't know. But this could have been something Photoshopped, something that was put out as a joke or something. But nobody in the community has come out and said, yep, that was a joke. So one thing that I know on the Hasbro Pulse site, I was searching for, I think it was Mindbender or one of them, and I saw it show up, flash, and went away. Maybe it was Serpentor, but one of the items I was looking for on Hasbro Pulse, it showed up and flashed for a brief microsecond and went away. And I was like, it frustrated me that I could not search and find it. And I think it's because they have to do so much prep work and have this stuff ready to go, and then they just activate it, and it's inactive. So that's why people could believe that this was true, but it might have just been a hoax. Who really knows? If they did have a 12,000 backer tier, they should have put it out. It would have generated excitement. The only thing the tiers really do is generate excitement, because a lot of people are going, oh, well, they added one figure, so now it's completely worth it. Well, it worked for me on the Cobra Commander on 2 different G.I. Joe ones, let me tell you that. So I enjoy that they did put up a live stream a week before funding was over, and they did have that vintage playset in there and a lot of comparisons and stuff. So we could sort of get the comparison, see what's going on, see a lot of the features, all of the features, and see what it comes with and doesn't come with and all that kind of stuff in comparison to a vintage one. So it was a really nice live stream. But a lot of people felt like it should have been a lot earlier, not waiting to the very last week. And I think they probably did this. I don't know if they planned this all along, but they probably did this at a moment's notice, thinking that it has stalled for a while. We've got to do something. We want to see this as successful as possible. I say it's a success because they got pretty close to 10,000. So what do you do if you missed this? Like, I tried to get the word out as much as I could. I got the word out on the day before, or the day of, technically, the Retro Wednesday video I put out today. I talked about it in news. I talk about it in a video on Saturday before. So with that, I kind of get the word out so everybody knows. And I was pretty blunt about, if you don't back this, then you'll be paying at least double, if not quadruple, down the road. So one thing I expect to see, people that were in the market for a vintage one, and then they just kind of stopped looking at vintage, backed this, or planned to back this. If they didn't back it, they go back to looking for a vintage one. So I think that we're going to start seeing vintage ones selling, because they kind of haven't been selling very well on the secondary market lately because of the backing. I think we're going to start seeing that in the next few weeks. Lots and lots of these selling. And again, vintage Eternia becoming really rare on eBay. Yeah, another option is waiting till spring of 2024 and ponying up a little extra. So there are some people in the community that did buy more than one, and they're probably going to be selling them. Here's the thing about this. A lot of people want to call anyone who bought more than one a scalper. Now, you can't scalp an unlimited quantity. Had somebody decided to buy 1,000 of these themselves tonight, they would have sold it to them. So someone says there was like a 10 quantity maximum. I don't believe that. I think you can just keep placing multiple orders of multiples over and over and over, and so there would be no problem. You just have to place them consecutively over and over and over, and they just keep taking your orders over and over and over, and they'll mail you however many you buy. So with that, you can't scalp something that's unlimited, so expect to pay more than retail. You're not going to pay the $650. You're probably going to be out about $1,500 to $2,000 to try to get one of these in April of 2024. Since only 9,280 were made, so there's less of them wheeled into existence. Now, there's more than the vintage. The vintage only had 4,000, but this one's only going to have 9,280, and that's not very many at the end of the day. But then again, how big is the Motu market, and how many collectors are really out there that want this, that can display this? So there's those factors. So start to makes me wonder about what the next project could be. So I think a Masterverse, or technically just re-putting out the classics, but changing it, the classics, more or less, Castle Grayskull, is probably what the next one would be. But I don't know. I really don't know. Do they want to revisit that? We already have an Origins Grayskull. Do you want to go with a Masterverse Grayskull? Now, a lot of people would be excited about it because I don't think Motu was nearly as big back when the Classics Grayskull was made. But then you're looking at, would they crowdfund a Snake Mountain? And then other people are saying, well, what about getting the Fright Zone or any of those other play sets? At the end of the day, I don't really know if any of those would have enough backing other than the Castle Grayskull. I know the Castle Grayskull would. I'm pretty sure a Snake Mountain, kind of like what Super 7 did, a Snake Mountain along those lines probably would, but they've already got an Origins one planned, so who really knows what the next one would be, or if the next one, would there be a second Motu crowdfund? I start to wonder how many of these lines can be sustained at one time with Masters of the Universe. I don't think that the market is big enough to sustain 3 full lines, all getting every playset, every figure, and every vehicle. So something kind of has to give here and there. So I am curious about. They're obviously already going to make this Snake Mountain. I believe it's going to be at the $100 price point. Some people say $120. Who knows? We all hope $80, but we know that's probably just hope. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the Masters Universe market can sustain all 3 lines getting everything. I do kind of like that there's cross compatibility between most of the vehicles from Origins or the Masterverse, technically Classics too, and with this Eternia. So I'd like to see more of that continuation of cross compatibility going forward, and not having to worry about trying to buy 2 of everything. I really want the Keclar figure, so I hope that they do something with maybe a Mattel Creations. I'm down with that, and I'd be pretty excited about that. And I know that's kind of the way it's drifting. Everything's drifting to Hasbro Pulse and Mattel Creations, and retail is just not getting as much as it used to. I'm hoping that we clear up the clogs in retail and start seeing new product, but that's just the hope, and it's not at all what I'm seeing in my area. So what do you guys think about this Eternia campaign? Did you back it? Did you pass on it? Did you watch it? Was it fun? Was it a wild roller coaster? Haha, wild roller coaster of a campaign. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, but it's still like a year and a half till it comes out, and I'm still excited for it. But I believe a lot of Motu excitement is going to die down once this is a thing of the past. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Like, subscribe to Eternia Hanger out.